Stop the recording. As you can clearly see, I have a love-hate relationship with this training aid. But as with many things, it's the stuff you don't like doing that actually gives you the improvements. And in today's video, I'm gonna show you how I use this training aid and why it's one of the favorite things in my bag that I use consistently and keep with me at every tournament to get warmed up. Let's do it right now. That's better. So you've all seen the G4 7-iron, but the Wedge I think is probably one of the best parts of the training aid series, right? Still got that flexible shaft in there, but the Wedge, again, with these smaller motions, really shows a lot of any errors and inconsistencies that you have in your wedge stroke, which I have a lot of, and I'm sure you're probably gonna see on camera. I like to use this thing just hitting these short little chip feel shots, just to make sure I'm getting that transition and getting everything the way I know I should feel it. And as always, if it goes out to the right, that means that you're probably doing something a little wrong. Perfect, kind of just like that. These little soft, delicate, and I just like to see it come off the club face. And this is a 55 degrees, so you can manipulate it. If you want to go a little bit higher, but 55 degrees should be more than enough to kind of get the idea of what you're looking for. And you really feel that whip through transition, especially for me, when I keep that handle close to me instead of getting it out here, and I get that handle to come through and kind of keep the speed with the body. I can just really feel that club release, and this really helps me work a lot on these short game shots. Distance control with this is pretty hard because it is very whippy, and I struggle with it a little bit out of the toe, so I can kind of feel it on these, but overall, hitting pretty much where I'm aiming. And there, again, when I get those hands pulley through, that club face deflects down and causes that toe to get down there, and that's where that shot comes out. So the feedback is instantaneous. You really get the feel of that transition when you start to hit it a little bit poorly, especially for me. I drag those handles and get that club face coming through like this way, whereas opposed to wanting to really keep that club in front of my body and rotate through so that that club face gets that ball going where it needs to go. All right. And then obviously, when you switch out of this bad boy and get back into your wedge, you'll know it should be a lot easier to hit those shots, even if you've been hitting these a little bit to the far to the right. So I just grabbed my 60 here, and I like to just go back and forth between hitting these shots. Oh, that's a beautiful contact. And then just switch into the other wedge too here. Oftentimes, I recognize that even when I hit this one pretty poorly, and I switch over to my regular, it still translates because the feel is trying to get you to do more of an exaggerated move. So if you exaggerate it with this and even have a little bit of that same feel with your regular wedge, it tends to work out pretty well. Oof, really just working on getting that transition as good as possible because again, these training aids will magnify your errors, which is why I like them as much as I do. There we go. And then switch back to the wedge. And even though that was a pretty bad strike, that kind of worked out really well. Transfer between the weight of the two is just, it doesn't feel like I'm using a different club. I just got the same feels. Hitting that nice and high. Oh, that's a beautiful crisp strike. And if you notice, right out the center of the club face. I'm gonna go ahead and switch it out. Good morning. It all comes down to the basic idea that this is just going to magnify any inconsistencies you have in your swing. As you can see from the video, anytime I get out of my tempo, I dump the club a little bit before the ball. I've talked about this in other videos. Just get a little bit too much side bend and end up just dumping the club before that. And obviously, you don't want to be mishitting the shots as you get closer to the hole. You want to be able to control strikes so you can control spin and control how the ball is going to react when it lands on the green. And again, I really love this wedge because it just gets me into a frustrated but a good state of mind on what I need to feel in order to hit my wedges more effectively. And because it requires you to be so exaggerated with the feels to get it right, even when I don't hit the G-force wedge as well as I'd like to, when I switch back to my regular wedge, I almost always see a much better strike pattern and a much better improved swing tempo with my wedges. I've left a discount code in the link below description if you want to order this and add it to your training aid arsenal. It's definitely going to be something that I use for the foreseeable future. That's all I got for you all down that lens. Thank you very much for watching my YouTube channel. Deuces, people. Let's keep it moving.